Once again, welcome everybody to the Global Quilt Connection. What you see here are teachers, quilt teachers who in the past we've traveled all around, the world has changed temporarily, and now we're ready to meet with you and do what we love and teach live, but virtually. So we can come to you through these fantastic technologies that we've all worked really hard to learn how to use. A few things to start with. On the website at globalquiltconnection.com, there's a PDF under today's webinar date that you can download and print off that has a spreadsheet of all of the teachers who are presenting today. It has our email addresses, it has our websites, it has our names, and our time zones, has our time zones, and a quick description of the classes we teach and room for you to take notes. So if you want to print that out, please do print that out. We would also like you all to open the chat function. If you touch your screen, if you're on a device, or go down to the bottom of your screen and open the chat function. Mel Beach is manning that and will answer any questions she has. If you have a specific question for a specific teacher, go ahead and put their name in it and they will answer it. We're all here watching, except for a couple who are probably asleep on the entire other side of the world. They're coming to you via video for the day. So please take advantage of the chat function on here. Again, let me just remind you that there is a link up on globalquiltconnection.com for the live stream on YouTube that's happening right now, and of this exact same thing. So if you have somebody else with you and they can't get onto this, send them a note and say, look at the website and look for the live stream. Hopefully they all automatically got that in there. All right, y'all ready to get started? Let's go ahead and start. The first teacher that we are going to hear from today is Sue Bleiweiss.
Hi everyone, I'm Sue Bleiweiss. I am really excited about being able to offer virtual live lectures and workshops directly from my studio. And I would like to take a few minutes of your time this morning to tell you about them. My lectures are 30 to 60 minutes in length, and some include video demonstrations with plenty of time built in for questions. I have lectures available on 3 of my favorite subjects: working in a series, easy fabric dyeing, and fabulous ways with fusible web, which highlights the many techniques beyond applique that you can do with fusible web. All of my workshops are suitable for any skill level, and they can all be customized to suit the needs and interests of your guild. Many of my workshops include optional kits to save the students the trouble of having to shop for and prepare some of the supplies they might not already have in their studio. Students in my workshops can work directly from my patterns, or they can use them as a jumping off point to design and create their own unique versions. Whichever path they choose, I will take them through my entire art quilt making process from start to finish, sharing all my tips, secrets, and techniques. These are just a few examples of the workshops I have available. I am also happy to design custom workshops based on the projects in any of my books. You can get more details on them as well as others on my website. My goal is to make the virtual classroom experience as close to an in-person workshop as I can. My virtual classes include live lectures and demonstrations, on-demand pre-recorded video demos accessible through a private online classroom where students can ask questions, interact with other students, and share photos, live on-demand support throughout the workshop day via Zoom or the private classroom, whichever the student prefers. Workshop day via Zoom or the private classroom, whichever the student prefers, and a live wrap-up show and tell session at the conclusion of the workshop day. I also include continued on-demand access to all the pre-recorded video demos for 7 days after the workshop and project support via email for up to 30 days after the workshop. Please feel free to visit my website for more information about my live virtual lectures and workshops, or email me at sue@suebleiweiss.com with any questions. Thank you so much for your time today.
Great. Next, we're going to hear from Nina Clotfelter.
Hi, I'm Nina Clotfelter. I have been sewing and quilting all of my life. It's just part of who I am. These are some lectures and classes that I offer, so let's talk. Threads is a great lecture that I do. I'm an educator for Wonderful Threads, and there's all kinds of information about threads that most of us just don't even think about. So we go over all kinds of this information. So much fun. Feathers. Who doesn't love feathers? We learn 3 different types of feathers in this class, and I just try to take the blinders off and help you learn what works best for you. Beginning ruler work is very doable on a domestic machine. I've created a ruler just for this class so students don't have a huge financial investment, and this is what they make towards the end of class. Thread painting is just no boundaries. So we start with a printed fabric, and then you learn all the techniques that way, and you can go wherever you want to with this. Just the possibilities are unbelievable. Zen quilting. This is one of the fun classes that is really quite relaxing. So there's no right or wrong with this. So it's a lot of fun, it's eye-opening and very relaxing. English paper piecing is something I've had to learn as an educator for Wonderful Threads. It's a project that can actually travel with you everywhere, on a plane, on a train, in the car. Chop it like it's hot. Okay, let's use all those threads and all those fabrics that we don't know what to do with that are left over from another project. And we're gonna smush them all together, chop it all up, and turn it into a gorgeous wall hanging. Isn't that pretty? If you have not tried quilting on leather yet, this is a great project for you to start with. We actually make a journal cover and you do the quilting on your leather. It's great fun. The possibilities are endless. These are journals that I've created, and you can embroider on it, or you can do free motion quilting, or you could use your decorative stitches. So this is a great fun class too, if you want to step outside of the comfort zone. So I'm Nina Clotfelter, and I love to share my passion of quilting. So please get in touch with me. My website is ninaquilts.com. I look so forward to working with your group. Thank you.
Next, we'll be hearing from Sheila Frampton-Cooper.
Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in today to this really great event, Meet the Teachers. And I want to thank Lyric and Sue for all the hard work they've done to put this together, to connect us all in this unprecedented time in our history. I've been making quilts since 2009, and I taught my first workshop in 2014. All of the classes are based on the different approaches I use when creating my work. My technique for 90% of the classes is simply piecing. And what I teach is more of a mindset change. It's not working with a pattern or a sketch, but really building on a foundation and letting it reveal itself to you. Here are a few examples of my work and the corresponding workshop. Of course, nothing will look exactly like this, but it's all about my approach. If you visit zoombaby.com, you can scroll through and see all the classes that I offer. In addition, I have now created a new website just for my online workshops, and you can visit fiberartworkshops.art to see what I have. My first workshop is all about dyeing solid fabric and surface design. As a guild, what you can expect from me is that it's possible for me to host your particular workshop within my platform. By doing so, students only need to come to the actual class, which will be a private group just for your guild, and sign in. And they will be able to view all of the live Zoom lessons, as well as pre-recorded demonstrations and lectures on that particular course. So thank you so much for your time, for joining in, and to all of us teachers out there, we're chameleons. We've embraced this new way of living, new way of teaching, and as it continues to evolve, thank goodness for technology, but we will evolve as well. So thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best and be safe.
Next, we will be hearing from Joyce Hughes.
Hello, I am Joyce Hughes, and I'm coming to you from Kettnersville, Pennsylvania, just a little bit north of Philadelphia. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I consider myself a fiber artist, and my specialty is in dimensional thread painting. I am also an author of 2 books, one that is already out and one that will be released in October, which I'm very excited about. And I give lectures and workshops. I have been giving lectures and workshops since April, when all of the different changes that's happened has worked out really nice for some different aspects of it, and maybe a little bit better, is I give them in a live presentation like tonight, and then I also then give a PowerPoint. So with this, I start out with my award-winning quilts, and I tell a little bit of story of each of the quilts as we go. And I talk about and explore why I worked with them and why I created them and the little stories behind them. Now I can zoom in and you can see a little bit more of the details. Then I go into my panel. The panel, what makes a bad panel. And I actually use 60 different slides throughout the presentation where I will show a lot of before and after and what different aspects maybe I used a different part of the panel to then recreate. I used all different embellishments. The panel has lines such as this, and you can see it's a little printed, even crooked, of how do you straighten up a panel, add the different elements of thread painting and embellishing. This one here, just by showing the different overlays, see something specific, I can zoom in. Here is my cover girl, as I was saying, on my 2 books. And these are the books. This is my one book that is out now. This is the book that is due out in October. And it is Thread Painting As You Go. And that is worked off of This Is the Finished Quilt. My workshops actually are done with a 2-camera system. So I will actually have one camera pointed on the needle that you can actually see me sewing, seeing how the stitching is, how it's showing up, and how you should be seeing your kind of stitching on your project. These panels are exclusive for me. I get them digitally printed from photographs that I've taken from my garden. And you will be able to select which specific panel you would like to work on. And this one is my technique class, which pulls us back into the book. Thank you again. And I would love for you to contact me, and I would love to see you at your guild. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Next, we will hear from Sandra Johnson.
Welcome. Hi, my name is Sandra of Sandra Johnson Designs. I reside here in Southern California, and I would love for you to pick me to be your next presenter or host a workshop. Remember, Sandra Johnson of Sandra Johnson Designs. this is Sandra of Sandra Johnson Designs. I'm here to show you just a little bit about sashigo. Yes, it's an amazing way of doing hand stitching and using old traditional Japanese embroidery techniques. You can notice I did some mending on my top here, but wait, I've got something to show you. I'm almost done with the project. People call me the denim lady because a lot of my creative work uses denim, but I actually use a wide variety of textiles to create clothing, quilts, handbags, and DIY projects. I teach 6 classes per week here in Southern California, and I am a guest speaker, and I offer workshops around the country. I design patterns, and I call myself a motivational speaker. I truly believe that each and every one of us is creative, but it's my role to bring out the creativity in each and every person. My enthusiasm is contagious. My energy is out of this world. Let me motivate you to be the best creative self you can be. So please go to my website to book me, www.sandrajohnsondesigns.com. Yes, I'll be your next presenter or workshop host.
Thank you, Sandra. Next, I'm Lyric Kinard and would like to share.
Hello, my name is Lyric Montgomery Kinard, and I'm an artist and teacher living in Cary, North Carolina. I love working with quilters, and I love taking quilters of absolutely any level and helping them find the creativity that I know they possess. I love to teach people how to make their own choices about design, how to apply the elements of art to their next quilt, no matter what kind of quilt they're making. Let me share some of my offerings with you. I have 3 Zoom-ready lectures, starting with the elements of art for every quilter, and I do mean every kind of quilter. In this lecture, we learn the 5 basic letters of the visual alphabet. We look at how each of these elements function as we view quilts across the spectrum, from antiques to modern art quilts. Living Lyrically is a humorous and autobiographical journey through 30 crazy years as a quilter, mother of 5, and traveling teacher. I encourage my listeners to be inspired, create beauty, and find joy in this addiction we call quilting. Playful Portraiture is a new lecture that wanders through the wonderful world of faces made with fabric. We look at a wide variety of portraits, moving from simple and whimsical to photorealistic. We see some truly innovative ways artists construct their work. I offer 2 types of courses. Technique courses like Appliquento to Go teach hands-on techniques with a fun and easy project. This class is a fusible reverse applique technique with an easy faux trapunto option. In Playful Portraiture, we begin with whimsical cartoon self-portraits, then learn how to create a pattern from a photo. We really focus on understanding the design and decision-making process that allows the creator to capture the character of their subject. Beat It Like You Mean It is another optional kit class where we learn the very basics of beading on fabric. We learn some fancy beaded bezel techniques, and the best part is I can show you how to bead from the top of a finished quilt with no knots or mess on the back. In Abstract Delicious, we follow easy and concrete exercises to develop original abstract designs. If we have 6 hours, we also delve into the design decision-making process as you create compositions from your studies. The Elements of Art is another all-level appropriate class where we dive into basic color theory and discover our creativity as we complete short exercises that teach us the function of each of the elements of art. You can find all of my lectures and workshops available virtually at lyrickinard.com. And if you see something on my website that is not listed as available online yet, send me an email. I'm happy to work something up for you. I hope to talk to you soon.
Next, we will hear from MJ Kinman.
to tell you the story about the day my life changed. Inspired by a Brown Woman product called Old Forest Department. They have to shoot flame inside. They have to set that thing on fire. It should have been the most amazing day of my professional artistic career. I was a hot mess simply because I listened to fear instead of joy. Let me show you how I carved her up into sections for my blocks so I could put her back together. Stepping into that without fear and saying yes. So before I leave, I have one more question for you. The key to freezer paper is that you can write on one side and that waxy or plastic substance on the back actually allows it to adhere to fabric when you hit it with a hot iron. It really is traditional piecing using freezer paper as your templates. The next thing I want to share with you is, I think we mentioned it before, is that precision is not a priority with my gem patterns. Because gems don't follow quilter rules, light couldn't care less about the quilt police.
Behind me is my Modern Strings class, Great Scrap Buster, and because everything is better in rainbows, we have the same quilt in a rainbow version. Again, a Great Scrap Buster, people really love this class. Also another string class is this one. We call this Diamonds on a String. Super easy, super fun, another Great Scrap Buster. I like to do lots of improvisational classes. This is one of them. This is called the Modern Improv Sampler. We take classic blocks, put a little wonky, fun spin on them. It's a great way for your guild members to dip their toes into improvisational quilting if they haven't done that. Similar to that is this one. This is the Improv Log Cabin quilt. Lots of different ways to just do various twists on the classic log cabin block. I also like to do skill builder classes. This next one is my half square triangle class. What do you do in class? We just make lots and lots of half square triangles, 12 different ways to make half square triangles. Similar to that one is the next one. I call it 5 Easy Geeses. And you guessed it, we learned 5 ways how to make flying geese blocks. That's 5 Easy Geeses. I love to do wedge quilts. I love to do rainbow quilts. I've combined them into this little one. This is the Dresden Rainbow Mini Quilt. Lots of techniques packed into a small little quilt. We'll get your guild sewing Dresdens in no time. This is another rainbow wedge quilt. I call this Roy. Really big hexagons, no Y seams, and people get really far in class. This can either be a quilt or a table runner. A lot of people will finish a table runner size just within the space of the class. One more wedge slash rainbowy quilt is this one. I call this Carnival, a really fun pieced background, but these are all really just Dresden, so just done up in a different way. Last but not least, I have this really fun, popular class. I call this Pineapple Squared. It's a pineapple quilt made out of pineapple blocks. Fun, right? So thank you very much. Again, I'm Heather Kojan. I'd love to come teach some classes for your guild. Thank you.
That was Heather Kojan. And next up we have Margarita Korioth.
Margarita Korioth. I work with paper and cloth. Talking about paper, why don't we go to the recycling bin and pick up those magazines to do some art? We can learn how to laminate magazine clippings and applique on cloth. Or we can do instant paper cloth with transparent layers and hand calligraphy. Bling, who likes bling? I can teach you how to apply foil without the need to use any heat. This is a cold foil technique. I love to paint. You can learn how to paint the whole quilt top. And this is a portable painting technique. Yes, you heard it right. You can paint it in the car if you are not driving, at the airport, in the plane. This is a surprise printing technique. It's a serendipity way to paint cloth.
Thank you. Next, we have Cheryl Lynch.
Hi, Cheryl Lynch here, and I'm so happy to be part of the Global Quilt Connection because it connects us no matter where we are in the world, and I can share what I've learned about quilting with you no matter where you are. You can even be in your jammies. I am an author, a designer, a quilter, and I also consider myself an inventor, and I'll show you what I mean. Here are 3 books that I have authored. The first book I wrote was called Quilt Fiesta, and it was about my travel to Mexico and the quilts that ensued. Then I have a book about embellishing, and my most recent book is based on my mosaics and is an alphabet sampler. I have 2 talks that I offer virtually. One is turning travel into treasures, and the other is about becoming a fabric designer. In turning travel into treasures, I take all my inspiration from trips, whether they're far away or whether they're in my neighborhood, and turn them into quilts. They could be realistic quilts, they could be abstract quilts. And when I start my talk, I like to share my first little quilt, and we'll travel to quilt. And I know a lot of us like to travel, and we have a lot of memories and a lot of photos in our cameras that wouldn't it be fun to turn them into quilts? So I hope I inspire you. I spend a lot of time in Key West, so here's one of my little Key West houses. And I just don't make quilts, I also make fiber books, because sometimes we run out of quilting space, wall space, and isn't it fun to be able to document either a locale or a trip with all these little pages, and it folds up into a small little book, and you can display it either on a table or a shelf. But the quilts don't necessarily have to be realistic. They could also be abstract or inspired by. And this quilt was inspired by a walk in St. Augustine, Florida. I have about 40 quilts that I share, the derivation and what inspired me to make the quilts, and we'll talk about that and about how I make them. The second talk I give is about becoming a fabric designer, and this is just recently, and here are all of my fabrics. So you certainly can tell what the inspiration for the fabrics are, and it's called Mosaic Masterpiece. And I talk about all the steps from having the desire to make fabric to how I presented it, and then how the product came, and then what I did with the fabric afterwards. So if you're interested in becoming a fabric designer, or if you're just curious about the steps, this is the perfect talk for you. I also have a variety of workshops. My most popular workshop are these mini mosaic quilts. They are made by placing small pieces of fabric on a sticky stabilizer and then quilting it, and you end up with a wall hanging. Curvilicious is another tool and technique that I devised, and I have a workshop for making curvilicious quilts. This one is one of the original ones made out of silk dupioni, but you can make it out of cotton, a solid, a print, a batik. This is based on my new fabric line, and it's called Sophia, and it's inspired by the floors in the ancient duomos and churches all over Italy. And it looks complicated, but here's the secret. It's really a Dresden plate.
Great. Thank you. Next up, we have Scarlet Rose.
Hi, I'm Scarlet Rose. I teach, lecture, and do quilt judging, and I want to share with you today what I'm going to be able to do for you virtually as far as lectures and workshops. I have a whole new series of patterns that I have done, pretty much because of the shutdown, and I think that will give you something interesting to choose from. I'm best known for my Celtic applique. I've taught people how to make bias tape for many years for hand applique. I've taken my Celtic designs and done them in sashiko and big stitch quilting. I do teach machine applique. It's a little bit different method for making the bias tape for machine applique. And I also embroider my Celtic designs with pearl cotton threads and different kinds of knotted stitches like the twilling stitch, and with beads for a little bit more glitz. I design panel prints in solid colors. These are my new samples that I'm working on, a little bit more something that you can play with. You can purchase these off of my Spoonflower website. My new pattern series that I mentioned is this Hearts and Homes series with little 4.5-inch houses and all kinds of little scrappy roofs. Kind of a fun thing to create your own little village. I created a Mayflower ship design to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the Mayflower. Dragon scale rings. This is a straight line with no curve seam, no inset patch, but you get that very circular movement, and the more blocks you make, the more overlapping circles you have. Follow the wind, flying geese, which if you change your light, mediums, and darks, you get all kinds of neat layouts, including little kitty cats. Heart lines. This is a 2.5-inch block. Kind of hard to spot, but it's a new modern style, very scrappy. And hearts and trees. Of course, if I'm going to do houses, I'm going to do trees so you can have that nice village or town look. My lectures, besides the Celtic applique quilt lectures that I do, there's a round robin one for traditional round robins, and that includes how I went into random robins. Friendship quilts, I have some vintage ones in the family, and I've also been involved in quilting groups and circles for many years. You'll learn all the funny stories and some of the tips and tricks of how to participate in one of these types of groups and get a finished quilt out of it. This is my contact information. And hi, I'm Scarlet Rose. I teach, lecture, and do quilt judging. And I want to share with you today what I'm going to be able to do for you.
I don't know why that started over. Okay, thank you, Scarlett. Next we have Carole Lyles Shaw.
My name is Carole Lyles Shaw, and I am a quilt pattern designer, author, and blogger and a workshop teacher. I love lecturing and teaching about modern quilting to quilters all over the world, and I conduct all of my activities over Zoom. Let me show you a little bit about how I do that. I use a password-protected site, and I make sure that we help everyone log into Zoom and get comfortable with all of the controls. For lectures, I can accommodate any size guild. And for my workshops, I usually keep the size of the group to 20 or less. Some guilds are also hiring me to conduct 2-day retreats. For those events, we can accommodate larger groups. For my lectures and workshops, I use a 2-camera setup. In my lectures, I have a camera which is facing me, like right now, and there's usually a quilt behind me on my design wall. I also use the second camera facing down onto my table so that you can see some of my quilts close up. In the workshops, I use my second camera to show my live demonstrations on top of my cutting table. I also use short pre-recorded videos, such as this one. During my workshops, because that's an efficient way to quickly show a sewing demonstration or a cutting demonstration or other technique. I also use the design wall to demonstrate as I put together blocks, because remember, I'm sewing right along with you during the workshop. These are blocks from my Stash Jazz workshop. So I hope you'll get in touch with me. I'd love to chat with you about your guild's needs for lectures and workshops. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next up, all the way from Australia, the land down under, we have Lisa Walton.
Hi, my name's Lisa Walton and I'm in Sydney, Australia. No, I don't have kangaroos in my yard, but I do have laughing kookaburras, which make a fabulous start to the day. When I was young, they used to swoop down and steal sausages off our barbecue. Anyway, it's really great to have the opportunity to speak to you today, and I hope you'll consider having me come and speak or teach at your guild. I've been teaching quilting for over 15 years, and one of the highlights of my career was to be the final recipient of the Jules Pearce-Patterson International Award for Quilting Teachers, which was awarded by the International Quilt Association in Houston. That was the most amazing recognition and opened up many doors for me. I have a passion for teaching and have taught at the Houston Quilt Festival, Festival of Quilts in the UK, South African Quilt Festival, New Zealand symposiums, and all over Australia, New Zealand, UK, USA, and Europe. I'm also the former president of SAQA, Studio Art Quilts Associates, and I'm committed to our vision of the art quilt being respected as a fine art medium. My other passion of travel has been curtailed with this dreaded virus, and so with my wings clipped, I have pursued other avenues of reaching out and sharing my skills with others. So I've been offering my lecture and some of my workshops online through Zoom, and hope you'll consider asking me to come virtually to your guild. My lecture, Leap and the Net Will Appear, reflects how I, like many of you, am often presented with opportunities or decisions to make, and it's really hard to know which way to turn. Do we take the easy way out or take that leap? Through my creative journey, I've had many of these decisions to make and have found that when I did take the leap, that net often did appear. My lecture follows this journey and also shows many of the quilts which have been created while following this path. My workshops are fun, interesting, usually full of laughs. I'm a relaxed but confident teacher who takes most things in my stride, and this new world of online classes is no exception. They're fun for the students who don't have to carry tons of supplies around, and I'm not travelling through countless airports with too many bags. Being in your own space with all your things close by makes for a really productive time. I've converted some of my most popular workshops to online versions, including Fantastic Fusion, which has been featured on Quilting Arts TV and The Quilt Show, as well as my creative beading class, which I've taught all over the world, creating another batch of obsessive beaders. Many more workshops will be released soon. I've also been occupying myself over the last few months by recording video chats with some of the world's most amazing quilters. These quilt stories are all on YouTube on my own channel, so I hope you'll share this with your members as well. So as I can't come to you physically for a while, why not have me come to you virtually? Here are all my contact details, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now.
All right, next up we have Mel Beach.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mel Beach. I'm delighted to be here today. I am an artist, teacher, and writer based out of San Jose, California. You may have seen me on The Quilt Show with Ricky Timms and Alex Anderson, as well as Quilting Arts TV with new episodes airing over the next few weeks via PBS. I also have several published articles with Quilting Arts magazine. I want to welcome you into my studio and now my makeshift classroom. I'm equipped and experienced for online lectures and workshops via Zoom, although I'm adaptable to other technologies. I've taught for several online lecture quilt shows as well as guilds, and I offer flexible teaching options. We can do the standard 6 hours, or we can break it down to 2 sessions of 3 hours each, a little bit more manageable. Participants have a chance to process and practice between sessions. There are other wonderful benefits for your participants. It's a much more relaxed learning environment. They get a great view to all of my demos and step outs, They're in their home studios with their own equipment. They can work at their own pace, which tends to actually be more accelerated than an in-person workshop. So they're very prolific. And it's great for you as the guild host because it's budget friendly. There's no travel involved. There's no room reservations or setup involved. And I take care of the bulk of the moderation. So you can sit back and enjoy the workshop fun. Speaking of workshops, I offer modern slant to workshops. I especially love modern piecing and improv piecing, which I teach in slice of improv, and freestyling and spiraling. For more modern love, Mod Mandalas covers bias tape applique. Walking Foot Wow covers quilting on with a walking foot. But my real passion is free motion quilting and lots of fun with it. These are mostly geared towards quilters that are on a domestic machine, but because you're all in your home studios, those of you that have long arms are more than welcome to join the fun. Modern free motion fillers and fun and pebble and play are especially beginner friendly. However, intermediate quilters, experienced quilters will leave with lots of tips and motifs to add to their repertoire. Mod molds and bright blooms is surprisingly beginner friendly. We do these colorful, brilliant cutwork reveals at the very end, whereas Magnificent Mandalas is more zen for the more experienced quilters. I offer several lectures that pair really well with my workshops, including my current favorite, free motion, creativity, and reality. It's my fun take on free motion quilting through the lens of a reality TV programs like Dancing with Threads, The Bachelor, and my personal favorite, Survivor. I also love a good quilt challenge, and I talk about 90+ quilt challenges in my Challenge Yourself lecture, both adventures and misadventures. I want to invite you to hop on over to my website, melbeachquilts.com, where I cover all my lectures and workshop offerings, my pricing. I have all my contact information there. Again, that's melbeachquilts.com. Thank you all for coming out, and a special shout out to Lyric and Sue for hosting this fabulous event. Stay safe, healthy, and creative all.
Thanks so much, Mel. Next up, and this is, we're just having this one more presentation, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break. So next up is Deborah Boschert. Deborah, we're not seeing anything yet. There you are.
Lyric, have you unmuted me?
No, you need to unmute yourself, I believe.
No, I'm not.
You're fine. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
To give you a sense of what I might have to offer your guild. First of all, let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm actually an artist. I make art quilt collages, and my work has been exhibited at galleries and quilt shows all over the world. I'm also an author, and I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for about 10 years across the country at guilds and events, including the International Quilt Festival, and maybe you've seen me on Quilting Arts TV or the Quilt Show. And yes, I offer programs and workshops virtually. But rather than tell you all the details about each of my programs and each of my workshops, which is covered completely on my website, I thought I'd use this time to just give you a sense of me and my work. These are the programs that I am offering right now, and I'm happy to talk with your guild about exactly which one is a good fit for your group. All of my programs include tons of inspiring images, and I'm always happy to talk about materials and techniques and creative process. Plus, we'll have as much time for Q&A as your group would like. My goal for all of my programs really is that everyone comes away with new ideas and inspiration no matter what kinds of quilts they make, whether it's traditional, modern, or art quilts. I also offer workshops, and these are some of the ones I'm currently offering. Remember, all the details are on my website. You can see from these workshop samples the different techniques that I teach, including surface design, composition, and hand embroidery. I'm also super excited to share with you these pictures of amazing work that's been done by students in my workshops over the past couple of years. Of course, these images are back from the good old days when we could gather in person, but I promise to bring the same enthusiasm and great instruction across the miracle of the internet to your studio or sewing room or dining room table. I also offer kits for some of my workshops, which makes it super easy to just dive right into the creative process. Just email me and I'll give you the details. All my workshops are structured with a set of step-by-step instructions, but with lots of opportunity for creative decision-making along the way. The supply list includes simple materials, and I really strive to make the whole experience super fun and encouraging. As far as the virtual details, I'll have both live and recorded demos. We'll do some image sharing, and I'll provide one-on-one feedback, and students will have access to downloadable resources ahead of time. That's me. I'm Deborah Boschert. I'd love to talk with you about bringing art quilting to your guild.
Next up, we have Kim Brownell.
Hi, I'm Kim Brownell, and
share your screen with us.
Let me go back a minute. I'm from the Sacramento, California area, and I call myself the Wacky Doodle Quilter because of my easygoing, whimsical style.
Kim, I'm going to spotlight your video for you so you have more time. Keep going.
Okay, thank you. And I do lectures in person and virtual. The first lecture I do is the Wacky Doodle Trunk Show, which is the wackiest trunk show in the West. Challenges, what to do. It's also known as the 8-step program for challenges. And yes, you can put it on your quilt, where we deal with all kinds of glues and fusibles and how to attach anything to your quilt. My workshops are in person and virtual. Quilted jigsaw puzzles, which are based on my own patterns. The fabric blackout, which is actually a nice, fun, easy quilt. It's a whole cloth quilt, so you don't have a lot of piecing or anything to do. Refillable notebook cover, textile fun. These are the textile fun where we make a small, out of all kinds of different things, little postcard style quilt we put on canvas and an easel. So you have a nice item for display. The next set of workshops I teach in person only. They're based on Karen Eckmeyer's books, which I do have her permission to teach, but in person only. Happy Villages, Accidental Landscapes.
Kim, could you try clicking share screen again? Because we're just seeing your face and I think we're supposed to be seeing slides.
Oh, okay. Let me go out of this.
Yeah, click share screen on the bottom and then you'll have to skip through a little bit.
1 second. Okay. Share screen. Okay, click share screen. Okay. Now, oops. I lost my PowerPoint. So where am I? Oh, there we go.
Okay, you have about 30 seconds left.
Okay. Okay, it's telling me that it's invalid.
Glitches happen. So why don't you give us your contact information and we'll remind everybody to please go to the Global Quilt Connection and look at Kim's website.
Yes, okay. I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. Again, everybody go download the PDF and we have links to Kim's website. Next up is Misty Cole.
Hey everybody, I'm Misty Cole and I have a short little slideshow for you here. My business is called Pick Your Brain Designs. I am definitely a non-traditional quilter. I came to quilting from painting and drawing. I like to use a lot of non-traditional embellishments and a lot of different techniques in my work. As an instructor, I focus on having fun and taking risks and trying new things. So the first lecture I offer is a contemporary applique trunk show. This is an up close and personal visit with my work, and everybody gets a front row seat. The second lecture I offer is Quilts Inspired by the College Park Aviation Museum. This is a really interesting museum in Maryland with a great history, and I was lucky enough to have a solo show there. I made 32 art quilts about the displays, and so I talk about the history of the museum and also how I came to have a show there. The last lecture I offer virtually is the Poison Bottle Quilt. This is a quilt that I designed as a block of the month, and I lecture about the history of these really interesting poison bottles. They're all historically accurate. So of course this is a great thing to try to book this time of year leading up to Halloween. It's a little bit scary and creepy. I also offer the Poison Bottle Quilt as a workshop. It's a six-hour full-day workshop, 20 participants. I always have a lot of fun teaching this workshop. We talk about fusible applique techniques, but also all the different embellishments. And it's always just really fun for students. We bounce ideas off of each other and come up with creative solutions. It's a great way to showcase all your Halloween prints that you've been saving up. And also sewing machines are optional for this workshop, so that is a big draw for some people. In conclusion, my website is mistycole.com. If you're interested in learning more about me or my work or what I have to offer, I would love for you to visit and contact me there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Misty. Next up, we have Kathryn Combs. Karen, do you want to try spotlighting your screen or sharing your screen again?
Yes, I want to thank
you got it.
All of you. I'm Kathryn Combs from Kathryn Combs Studio, and I want to thank the Global Quilt Connection for this amazing opportunity, and thank you to all the program chairs for joining us. I have some of my quilts from my Patchwork Illusion class behind me. Please enjoy them while I pull up my presentation. Hello again. Let me introduce myself. I'm a teacher and an author. I'm a fabric designer and a quilt designer known for my Quilts of Illusion. I have 2 lectures. My Quilts of Illusion lecture is a virtual quilt show filled with inspiration and information about all kinds of illusions. There'll be lots of photos, and we'll take a look at how these quilts are created. You Bought That Where is a fun lecture filled with lots of ideas about unusual places to find quilting notions. I'll use these items in some unusual ways, and I can't wait to share them with you. As a bonus, we'll take a little tour of my studio, and you'll see how I use many of my finds. I have 4 classes. My first is Chip Out of Every Block. This is a wonderful quilt of illusion that will change on you depending on how you look at it. It's created with simple shapes and is a quilt that can grow to any size you wish. Believe it or not, there are no set-in seams. Jewel Box is a beautiful quilt, again created with very simple shapes. It is a lovely 3-dimensional design. No one will believe just how easy it is to make. My Patchwork Illusions class has been very popular over the years. I've taught this technique to literally thousands of students. These cubes have so many design options. The possibilities are almost endless, and the illusions are simply amazing. Combing through your scraps is a perfect class to dive into your stash and just have fun sewing. We'll piece a few simple blocks, and I'll be showing dozens of design options for them. You won't believe how many different quilts we can create. Thank you again. You can find more information about my classes, my newsletter, and my social media links at KathrynCombs.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and looking forward to visiting your guild.
Thank you so much, Karen. Next up, we have Cindy Griselda.
Hi, I am Cindy Grisdela, and I am from Reston, Virginia, outside Washington, D.C. I'm an artist, a teacher, and the author of Artful Improv. I'm really excited to be able to offer live online lectures and workshops via Zoom. My specialties are improvisational design with no patterns and no templates, and using color effectively in your quilts. So I have 4 lectures at 5 workshops that are ready to go virtually. I have been lecturing and teaching since April, so I'm experienced with this new world that we're living in. My lectures include Playing with Colors, which is one of my most popular lectures, where we talk about how to use color effectively in your quilts. Anatomy of Improv is another popular lecture, where I talk to you about 3 different ways of creating improvisationally. What is improv and how do I use it? Free motion quilting with style. Learn how to go beyond stippling with new motifs and combinations in your free motion quilting. And lastly, Journey of an Art Quilter, which goes over my path from a traditional hand quilter following patterns to a more contemporary style that I enjoy now, my improv work. I have several fun workshops that can be structured in a variety of ways. Some of them work well for half-day, 4-hour workshops. Some of them are better for full-day, 6-hour workshops, which we can do either as a 6-hour Zoom presentation with a break for lunch, or 2 3-hour sessions on different days, so that students can experiment and practice with the techniques and have more time with me to learn about actual designing the quilt. So Artful Improv goes along with my book. We learn 5 different improv techniques. No pattern, no rules equals lots of fun. Improv puzzles. We go into improv style log cabin blocks and stripes. Each one is put together like a puzzle, and so depending on your individual blocks, each quilt will be different. Focus on the improv block. We will make an improv log cabin the center of a composition with lots of negative space. Fearless curved piecing. You don't have to be afraid of curved piecing with my technique, where we cut freehand curves with no templates and no pens. And improv play with lines and shapes. These are some of my favorite techniques: angled stripes, improv curves, and insets. And in all of my classes, each student will create her own individual work that will be different from her neighbor and also different from mine. So that's a very exciting thing about creating improvisationally.
Thank you, Cindy. All right. Next up, we have Kathryn Groves.
Hi.
Kathryn, there you are.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, I'm Kathy Groves, and it's a pleasure to speak with you this afternoon. You can find more about me on Facebook or on the web at Bobcat Quilts. As a professional educator for more than 40 years, I've taught school children, college freshmen who are a lot like the school children, and I taught Microsoft applications in the 90s when computers first moved into offices and homes. Through my experiences, I've developed a skill set that sets me apart from many of my peers. The reviews from my students indicate their appreciation of my thorough step-by-step approach, whether in the classroom or in front of the camera. Whether I'm teaching beginning quilt making, precision piecing, applique, or my favorite technique, foundation paper piecing, I have the experience to help you and your guild take on new techniques and create beautiful projects. As a certified QuiltWorks instructor, I've made more than 70 of Judy's quilts. Here are a few favorites that I often share in trunk shows. I also offer trunk shows highlighting quilts that feature applique, holidays, or the use of color, for example. And not all QuiltWorks quilts are bed-sized quilts. There are many patterns that make perfect guild workshop projects. I found that the Zoom platform can actually enhance the workshop experience. While I've taught quilt making in a classroom for more than 15 years, I was ahead of the curve and began offering my first Zoom workshops earlier this spring, and have had the pleasure of presenting to guilds at their monthly Zoom meetings. What makes Zoom presentations and workshops so successful? First, there isn't a bad seat in the room. By taking advantage of technology, from screen sharing close-up still photos to live cameras focused on my cutting surface, my sewing surface over here, and my pressing surface behind me, students don't have to visualize and imagine what I'm doing. They can actually watch right along with me as I explain. I'm currently in the middle of my third Zoom course with several more on the calendar. Many of my students are returning for additional courses once they realize how successful a Zoom workshop can be. My quilters come from coast to coast, and this is what they're saying about me. Oh, hang on here. I needed to do one thing that I forgot to do, and that's share sound. Sorry. Visit me at bobcatquilts.com and check out what we do to learn more. I would welcome the opportunity to talk with you about virtually visiting your guild and sharing my love of quilt making with your members. Please email me at Kathy@bobcatquilts.com and let's get a date on the calendar very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathryn. Next up, we have Diane Harris.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stash Bandit Studio. I'm going to start my presentation here. I'm Diane, and the name of my business is Stash Bandit. I have both trunk shows and classes available, and the big picture of what I do is all about scrap quilts. So I show you scrap quilts and teach a variety of concepts related to color and design. I'll entertain your group with scrap quilts and introduce a variety of ideas. The first trunk show I would speak about today is called Windy Wonders, A Quilt Block Grows Up. I've taken one simple little quilt block and designed and made dozens of quilts based on them. So the big idea here is that you begin to learn to think like a designer. These are just a couple of examples. You can see they're scrappy, so no matter what quilt trunk show I'm doing, I'm still using scrap quilts. Make Extraordinary Scrap Quilts is my most popular trunk show. The big idea here is that you will learn many different ways to tie diverse fabrics together. So there's a little ring around the rainbow quilt. I designed my giant pineapple quilt, which happens to be free on my website. This is all dressed up. I love Dresden plate. And then the Jingle Bells Trunk Show, as you might imagine, is a trunk show full of Christmas and holiday quilts. So the big idea is that it is just a happy celebration, and quilt guilds love it because everyone gets inspired to sew for the holidays. Here are a couple of my designs for those quilts. My Christmas tree happened to be on the cover of McCall's Quick, and this is my improvisational Christmas sampler. As far as classes, I prefer play shops over workshops. Let's Play Dress Up is all about Dresden plate. Baby Windmills is that simple little block and all the infinite things you can do with it. Tango is a great class that appeals to all different levels of quilters, scrappy or planned, a little more planned either way. And String Piecing 101, infinite possibilities, just relaxing and playing all during the whole session. So lots more detail on my website, stashbandit.net. I would love to hear from you and see you virtually very soon. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Diane. David Owen Hastings is up next.
There we go. Hey everyone, I'm David Owen Hastings from Seattle, Washington, and I'm a graphic designer, a visual artist, and quilter. And really, I think that quilting is art, so there's no difference to me. But I sure miss the days when we could get together and do our workshops in person. But my goal is, with bringing my work online, is to make that experience as close to the in-person experience as possible. So we'll get creative. Here's just a few images of some of my quilt creations. I love the modern minimal aesthetic. I love walking foot quilting, and you'll see that in some of my workshops as well. So I've got actually 9 offerings for workshops. They're either 3 hours or 6 hours by Zoom. And I'll just click through them very quickly here. This one's inspired by architecture, where we take a photograph of architecture that you provide and create a quilt design. This one is inspired by art, similar idea where you take a piece of artwork and use it as a jumping off point for a new modern quilt design. And this is a fun workshop, mini mid-mod quilts, where we are going to learn a lot of skills. It's a skill builder type of class, and you'll come up with some really beautiful little gems of quilts at the end. This is my favorite workshop. It's a modern abstract quilt workshop where we spend a day working on design and then a day working on sewing. So it's going to be really fun. I also love Japan and indigo. So I've got an indigo modern workshop where we base our designs on folded origami. And I also have a couple of project-based workshops. This is a quilted iPad case that I designed. And this is a snappy eyeglass case workshop. And these are both using the quilt as you go technique. So they're great for anyone for beginners to advanced quilters. And since I'm an artist, I also talk and teach about how to stitch paper. So I've got a stitched paper collage workshop. And since I love Japan, I've got a visible mending workshop, kind of inspired by sashiko, boro, and Indian canvas stitching. My lectures there's 6 of them right now.
David,
yes.
Hold on a second. We're trying to fix a video issue and we don't want you to miss your time.
You want me to stop my share?
Yeah, stop your share and start it over again.
Yeah, so I think we're having some issues. A lot of people are complaining about not being able to see and stuff. So it's not everybody's having an issue though. It's fine for me. It's fine for some people and not for others. And so not sure who's having an issue or not. But
so David, go ahead and try to share your screen again and we'll see.
All right.
For those of you
are you
who
seeing that, Lear?
trouble, you can try the YouTube live stream.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing it just fine. So you haven't lost time. Go ahead and continue with your.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry that people are having technical issues. That's hard, and that's all a part of this. And we're working on it together to figure it out. So that's the cool thing. This is a series of professional development lectures that I give on branding, Instagram, and Zoom. So especially for guilds who may not be as comfortable with some of these topics, I'm going to use my design skills to help bring you up to speed. And I've got a lecture on my stitched paper artwork, since I've been a visual artist for over 20 years. And that ties in well with my stitched paper collage workshop. And a lecture on indigo dyeing in Japan, which I've done, and that ties in great with my indigo modern workshop. And finally, I have a lecture on minimal design with maximum impact, and that ties in great with that 2-day workshop that I mentioned, modern abstract quilts. So please check out my offerings at davidowenhastings.com. You can also follow me on Instagram to see what I'm up to on a daily basis. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. And thanks everybody for your patience. That's one thing that all of us who've taught already have figured out, is that there's always a glitch somewhere. But we as teachers, we have backups and backups for our backups and backups for those. So we always get it figured out. And we're all patient with each other. Next up, we have Debra Jalbert.
Hey everyone, I hope you can hear me. I am not going to share my PowerPoint. I'm just going to go straight live because, you know, it's kind of fun that way. And just so that you can all see everything. I'm Debra Jalbert. I'm also known as Maid of Honor Quilts, and I'm coming to you from Central Florida. I am primarily an improvisational piecer, and most of my classes are offered that way. I have 2 lectures, and I have 4 workshops or lectures that I've taught half of them virtually already, and I teach since March about twice a month virtually, and it's going pretty well. I love the live session that you can interact and fix technology and help others fix technology, and I do that during my classes. So if you look behind me, I have a sample from every single one of my classes. Over here, I have a class that I offer is Notan and 2 color quilts, primarily working with black and white. And over here on top, I have a class that I call my wedding dress class. And I like to take primarily a wedding dress, but really any clothing or fabric, and I show you how to take that fabric, especially if it's a little vintage, and treat it well, and then prepare it for making it into a quilt and preparing it for piecing into a quilt. So those are just lecture classes. I have lecture and half-day workshops. One of the ones that I teach is an improv EPP class. So if you are not using English paper piecing yet and want to jump in without a big investment, if you look close at this, I use 3x5 cards, and I talk about how to design improv EPP using 3x5 cards and just minimal investment in getting started. Another class I teach is graffiti applique quilt. It's kind of down here at the bottom. That's a fun class, exploring quilts that are multi-layered and multi-constructed, and it's also using raw edge smooth quilting. So I take a raw edge piece and I show you how to keep that raw edge looking smooth and not frayed. Lastly, I have a leftovers workshop. I love working with tiny pieces. In both the graffiti class and in the leftovers class, you'll find that some of your pieces will come out not as pieces, but as slivers. And I'll show you how to obtain that. My last class I want to tell you about is, I haven't offered it virtually yet, but I have offered it in person, and I'm translating it into a 3 or 4 session class. So we'll see how that goes. You get broken up into groups, and the idea is to work collaboratively, and you'll be mailing quilts to each other. So maybe one of you will be brave enough to take that class for your group. Again, I'm Debra Jalbert with Maid of Honor Quilts. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Deborah. Next up, we have Ellen Lindner.
Hey, y'all. I'm Ellen Lindner, and I've been cutting my own hair. My hairstyle, I know, is not the only victim of the pandemic, as we've all been missing out on our in-person quilting events. But I've got good news for you on that account, and that is all the things that we love about in-person events are still there with the virtual ones. So for me as a teacher, the thing that I love is when the student gets it. You know, they come in the morning a little bit hesitant maybe about what they're going to be tackling, and by the end of the day they have a great project that they're excited about, plus the renewed confidence that they have from gaining a new skill. They're thrilled, and I am as well, and that is still there in the virtual classes. I'm an art quilter, and so all of my classes have to do with some aspect of art quilting. Let's see if this is going to work for me. There we go. Some of my classes have to do with techniques, and then others are more open-ended and have to do with concepts such as color or design. And all of my classes are good for new art quilters, maybe traditional quilters that want to try art quilting for the first time. I have 6 classes. I'm not going to try to tell you about all of them today, so I hope you'll check my website for the remaining details. But this is my newest class, Love It and Leaf It. And this easy little quilt is done in only a 3-hour class, and at the end of the 3 hours, it is faced and finished and framed. On the other end of the spectrum is my class, Design Your Own Nature Quilt, and this is the most open-ended of my classes. In this one, the students learn about design for about 2 hours, and then they have the skills they need to sketch a design based on their own inspiration photo. From that sketch, they can build their own quilt, and it's completely unique, starting with their own inspiration. This shows some student work. They always do a great job. And again, the remaining classes you can find on my website, which is adventurequilter.com. I have 3 lectures, and all of them have very broad appeal to both traditional and art quilters. My newest one is called Confessions of a Fabric Whisperer, and it shows some of the wacky stuff I've done over the years on a lot of in-progress photos. Some of those experiments have been successful, and then others have fallen into the interesting category, but I'll show you those as well. My lecture, Playing with Fabric, has to do with my journey from traditional quilter to art quilter. And along the way, I share a lot of valuable techniques and also some ideas for sparking your own creativity. Of course, we can never learn too much about color, and in my 1-hour lecture, I touch the tip of the color iceberg, but still manage to give you a lot of valuable information. So in that time, the viewers learn how to use a color wheel, the value of using a complementary color scheme, and other things as well. Again, I hope you'll check my website, adventurequilter.com. I know it's a little bit intimidating for you guild leaders to get your guild up to speed on the virtual, and so that's why with any guild that books with me, I do work with the guild to help get them the Zoom skills that they need. I hope to work with you.
All right, next up we have Melissa Marginet.
Hey there, my name is Melissa Marginet, and I signed up for Global Quilt Connection because I have a passion to teach quilting. I had been traveling to teach, but I'm now also offering my classes in an online format. I have published 2 books on walking foot quilting, and I also teach classes on walking foot quilting, where I emphasize helping students build the confidence to quilt their quilts on their home sewing machines. Modern Quilting with Your Walking Foot is my most popular class. In this technique class, students practice quilting various designs on small quilt sandwiches. The class includes tips on managing large quilts on home sewing machines. Planning Your Walking Foot Quilting is a design class. Students work with pencil and paper, and I guide them through various exercises to show how I go about making a plan before quilting a quilt. Students will then work on planning the quilting for 1 or more of their own projects, and we work together as a class and share ideas. 2 other technique classes that I teach are Let's Bind It and Break It Up. There are many ways to bind a quilt, and there are many ways to quilt as you go. I teach several methods in each of these classes. Pixel Perfect, Zentree, and Florentine Bargello are examples of project classes I have to offer. I am also available for trunk shows. Get Your Motor Running and Myth, Quilting is an Expensive Hobby, are 2 of the trunk shows that I can present to your guild or group. Besides publishing my 2 books, Walking Foot Quilting Designs and Edge to Edge Walking Foot Quilting Designs, I have written several patterns. I have also contributed articles and patterns to a variety of magazines and blogs. I am an energetic and enthusiastic instructor. I have 20 years of quilting experience and 14 years of teaching experience. My classes speak to the perfectionists among us, as well as the carefree quilters and everyone in between. I believe we should never stop learning and never stop creating, regardless of where we fit on this spectrum. This is just a sampling of what I have to offer. I invite you to visit my website, melissamarginet.ca, for more information and to view my work. You can also email me at marginet@live.ca with your questions or to book an event. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Melissa. Next up, we have Susie Monday.
Hi, everybody. This is Susie. I'm really happy to be here and to share some information about my teaching practice. I've been teaching for 50 years, believe it or not, and online for about 7 years. So I've got a lot of experience, and I have a little different approach to things. I'm not teaching quilting skills as it is. I'm teaching classes about digital technology and how you can apply design skills from your iPad and your computer. One of the things I'd like to share is a little, instead of everything that I'm doing, I'd like to share some of the a detail of one of the classes that I teach and one of the lectures. This is called Digital Beyond Photo, Digital Beyond the Photos. And it's a Digital Beyond Photos. Here we go. If you've ever noticed when you look at a photograph that's been printed on fabric, a lot of times it can be a little disappointing. But if you take an app and you run that same photo into a filter, there are amazing things that happen. A design can become a very graphic image that can be printed as a whole cloth piece. It can be turned into a pattern that repeats across the surface and can be used for fabric design that you use in traditional quilts. Or of course, you can do a painting that can be translated into an art quilt. A background can then be quilted to make a very wonderful image. Another way of using an app is just to trace an image on your photograph and then use it as a pattern. So there's many different ways just to take a photo and use it in a new way for fabric printing, for commercial printing through someplace like Spoonflower, or just doing a small print on your own inkjet printer. So that's just Engine is a wonderful app for transforming your photographs into. That's just a little snippet of one of my iPad classes, but it's also applicable to just a lecture on how digital arts are changing the way that we work. And I hope that you'll check out my website. You'll see a lot more details about the way that I teach. Here's a little glimpse of that. Webinars, pre-recorded video presentations, one-on-one instruction, lectures. I teach a lot about creativity. So if you're interested, go to my website, check out what I do. The price ranges are really affordable, and I love that I can work with you guys without leaving home. So thanks so much for being with me.
Thank you, Susie. Next up, we have Susan Pelland. Okay, Susan, if you could stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'm not going to share my screen. I'm just going to highlight my video. Okay, so I am a very old-fashioned quilter. I've been quilting since I was 12 years old, and I've been teaching quilting since I was 16 years old, and my mom and I owned a quilt shop together. Well, one of the things that I love about quilters is that they're always ready to try something new. Even my traditional quilters that love piecing, I love to convince them to add a little bit of applique to any quilt that they make, because I specialize in applique. I love applique, and I know that when I go into a traditional quilt guild, a lot of people are a little bit frightened by that word applique. So I have designed a series of tools that make applique easier. Anybody who can rotary cut can applique with my tools and make beautiful applique quilts or add a little applique accent to any quilt. So I have also been teaching Zoom live workshops and doing lectures for quilt guilds. And my workshops and lectures are just a little bit different. We do focus on traditional designs. I have a series of books and patterns, and from my books and patterns, I have a wide range of classes that I offer. But I want to talk to you first about the lecture or the presentation. When I present Fast and Fabulous Applique to your guild, your members are going to discover a brand new way to applique that makes it faster and easier, so anyone can applique. I always like to tell them, if you can rotary cut, you can applique. The courses that I love to teach include very simple applique designs. There are basically 15 shapes that you can cut with your rotary cutter to create these beautiful applique quilts. So I love to take a beginner who is frightened to start appliquing and to teach them one of these very basic designs to get them rotary cutting their applique shapes, 4 layers of fabric and fusible at a time. We're going to teach them fusible applique so they have instant gratification and they can get a project like this done in a 4-hour class. My workshops range from 2, 4, and 6-hour classes in one day to multi-day classes. When we have a workshop that requires different techniques to be done, first we're going to applique our quilt, and then we're going to do some machine quilting. I love to do that in a multi-day class so that the students, I'm sorry, my timer's going off and I can't stop it, so that my students can get the applique done, and then we'll tackle the layering and the quilting in the second workshop. I love to work with guilds and find creative ways that you can finance your workshops and your presentations. And I'd love to talk to any one of you. You can see my lectures and workshops on my website, SuePellinDesigns.com.
Thank you so much, Sue. Next up, we have Kathryn Redford.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Kathryn Redford, coming to you live from my studio in Naperville, Illinois. I've been quilting for over 20 years and a full-time traveling quilt teacher since 2013. So that all came to an abrupt halt on March 14th when I flew home for my last class in Southern California. I've used my enforced sabbatical to prove to myself I really do enjoy the creative process. But now it's time to get out from beyond these 4 walls. We might not be able to board a plane or even cross state lines for a while, but I'm looking forward to making new friends around the world via the wonders of modern technology. I have a trio of lectures all ready to deliver right into your home. My quilts have been professionally photographed for beautiful, clear, close-up viewing. Language of Flowers includes a wide variety of quilts featuring flowers, many of which are beaded and embellished. In Lessons Learned While Quilting, I share my journey through quilting right from that first quilt up to the present day. I've learned more than just that perfect 1/4 inch seam. Trip Around the World in Folk Art Stitches is a humorous and educational lecture. I'll take you on a trip around the globe with 10 quilts I made for a special exhibit at International Quilt Festival in 2017. I do love to teach. I've taught with a camera and projector in my classroom for the past few years, so I was well set up to teach via Zoom. I use multiple views to give everyone a front row seat. I offer several machine classes, including the ever-popular Walking Foot Quilting Beyond the Ditch. Beneath the Surface is my new class for those who want to make a little whole cloth art quilt, and wrapped in scraps includes a fun table runner, not just the usual clothesline bowl. Handwork classes are made for Zoom. Participants can sit in their own comfy chair, set up a good light and follow along. I always have lots of samples for inspiration. Students will enjoy the relaxed tempo and reconnect with handwork. Optional high-quality kits make for stress-free preparation. Introduction to Folk Art Stitching is where we start by learning some basic embroidery stitches and then add some novel embellishment techniques. In dimensional embroidery stitches, students will add some more advanced stitches to their embroidery vocabulary. Introduction to Wool Applique teaches us techniques required for successful whip stitch wool applique and includes embroidery. Dorset buttons are a traditional English craft experiencing a resurgence. Everyone will be able to make their own buttons. The adventurers can add beads. And I like to say I am an English paper piecing. My first memories of EPP are stitching with friends in our homeroom during the lunch hour at high school. I enjoy using traditional techniques for great results, all the way from straightforward hexagons to awkward clamshells. I hope all that sounds like fun. Find out more on my website or social media feeds. I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Until then, stay safe. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. We have 2 teachers left, and then I'd like to tell all of our viewers that we'll have a little bit of time for question and answer. So think about the questions that you might have. Next up, we have Maria Schell.
See, I've got to unmute myself. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So my name is Maria Schell, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my quilts and the workshops and lectures I offer. I should say right off the bat that my work is firmly grounded in the classical tradition of American patchwork, but I've studied art and design, and I have a particularly modern aesthetic. And I have a hard time advancing my slides, and I don't know why that is. Okay, super excited to invite you to join me virtually in my home studio in Anchorage, Alaska, where I offer a variety of workshops and lectures. I'm happy to try and customize your virtual experience with me. I believe there's great value in cultivating original work and creativity in every individual. All of my workshops are designed to work with a variety of skill levels within the same class. I strive to create a warm and welcoming environment where students are encouraged to be their best quilter. While each of my workshops covers color, working with block units, and construction, which are core components of my work, the focus indicated in the title of the class allows us to zoom in on a particular aspect of quilt design. Subject matter includes, but is not necessarily limited to, the following: exploring color theory, composing abstract design, improvisational piecing and cutting, working with prints and solids, and troubleshooting patchwork construction issues. Some of my most popular workshops use traditional quilt blocks as the launching point for creating original patchwork design. These workshops include linear blocks, riffing on tradition, and blow it up. I'm a big fan of scrap quilts and the patchwork tradition of using what you have. Kitchen sink quilting, the art of making do, and bits and pieces, designing from the scrap bag, are 2 workshops that focus on designing original, one-of-a-kind quilts to be used and loved. The workshops Circle and Curve Sampler and Making Prints Out of Solids, Lines into Shape, are technique-driven workshops, and they are probably my most popular workshops, and they're really the foundation of the work that I do. I also have a list of different lectures that I would love to give for your guild. The most popular ones are probably Patchwork to Artwork, Journey of an Alaskan Quilt Maker, Building Community Through Quilt, and Traditional Art Modern, Notes from the Field. I think one of the most satisfying aspects of being a quilt maker is seeing your students take what you've taught them and turn them into original compositions. And here are 3 examples of some really lovely pieces created by my students during my workshops. So I'd love to work with you. If you'd like to learn more about who I am and what I do, you might check out my book, which is called Improv Patchwork, or you can visit my website, or just shoot me an email at mariashell4@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maria. Next up, we have Sherry Lynn Wood. Are you with us?
Hello, hello. My name is Sherry Lynn Wood. Welcome to my sewing room here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been teaching improvisational process through the medium of patchwork for 30 years, and I'm the author of the Improv Handbook for Modern Quilters, which currently has 25,000 copies in circulation and is a staple in many public libraries. This fall, I'm offering 8 workshops built around and adding to the content in my book. Your guild can join me in this endeavor as a workshop host to welcome the community of improvisers I bring together from across the globe. The goal of my live stream workshops presented on the Zoom platform is to foster community and connection through small sewing groups, offer close-up demos of innovative ruler-free techniques, exercises for harnessing emotional energy, freestyle composition tips and practices, and foremost, to model and teach improvisational process in a way that nurtures flexible minds and restores whole hearts. First-time beginners and more experienced, my students leave as better improvisers of patchwork and in life. Let me show you a range of demos made during my previous 6 sold-out live stream events taught since April. This is from my 2-day wedge curve workshop. This is a demo that was created during a patchwork doodle workshop. This is a demo created from one of my freestyle curves, my layered curves workshop. And under the sewing machine here is a demo of bias strip piecing on the curve. Hi again. My workshops are entirely live, each one unique, and there are additional benefits, including access to the workshop recording for 30 days and a Zoom room sewing party, very popular, immediately following the workshop for those who want to continue to sew in community. I'm all about creating connection and community in my workshops. Besides hosting a workshop, guilds can book me to present a lecture demo during your monthly meeting. There are no mistakes in my workshops, whoopee! And there's so much to learn. Thank you for this opportunity to present. Read reviews and find out more about hosting a workshop or booking a lecture demo by visiting sherrylynwood.com/FAQ. Thank you, Lynn and Sue.
Thank you so much, Sherry. All right, that is all 30 of our teachers that we have for you here. I suggest if you're still watching, especially if you're on Zoom, go to Gallery View, click on Gallery View, because all of our teachers are here. We're happy to answer any questions, whether it's a general question or a specific question. Look down at the bottom, open up the chat function, and make sure that on that chat, you type in at least all panelists there. I will look and see if anybody has questions for us. While you're typing your questions, I want to remind you to go to globalquiltconnection.com, and very soon you will see links to a recording of this whole thing. Already there is a downloadable PDF with every one of these teachers' names, their emails, and their website so that you can easily contact them. I suggest contacting them very soon. Our schedules fill up very quickly, and there's a lot of people watching, which I love. This is so exciting. So contact us. We're ready and waiting to hear from you. And most of us are really, really flexible about helping you make this work. All right, does anybody, Mel or Sue, do you see any questions that we need to answer?
I'm not seeing any just yet. I did want to say, for those of you watching on YouTube, if you want to type a question into the live chat, we can pick it up from there as well. So feel free to post any questions on whatever platform you're viewing us on. So,
right. Do any of our panelists, any of you teachers, have anything that you want to say to all the viewers and to all the other teachers? Do like this. Joyce, unmute yourself.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and spending their time and for hosting this. It's been wonderful. And thank you just to stay connected.
Thank you.
So I did want to say, something. We're getting a couple of comments about prices for workshops. For those of you watching, you'll need to contact the individual teacher for their particular rates for their workshops and lectures. Let's see, how many people were registered for this webinar? We had about 1,000 people register for the webinar. At one point, we had over 800 watching live. And I also wanted to mention too that there are 2 more presentations. If you are signed up and registered for this one, then you are automatically registered for the next 2 that are coming up. All the information is on the website.
Those are September 2nd and September 9th.
Yeah. And also a reminder that this is being recorded, and I will hopefully get the recording up on the website sometime in the next 24 hours once it's ready to go up there.
All right. Any other teachers? Susan, you had something to say? And then Carol.
Yes, I saw a question, and that was, how do you handle those technophobic quilters? So I just wanted to answer that question. One of the ways that we can handle some technophobic quilters, I offer some free quick workshops on my website just so you can try out the Zoom platform. So that's one idea. Another idea is to have an FAQ page for those quilters. But what's really nice about the Zoom platform is there is an email that goes out and there's a one-touch link. All they have to do is use that link and they can get on very, very easily. I even have quilters that don't have the ability to have video, and they're still able to watch and listen, even if I'm not watching them and listening to them. So it's great fun taking a Zoom workshop. I hope you'll enjoy it, and I hope your guilds will dive right in and get some of these great people out there to teach at your guild.
Thanks, Susan. Carol, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just 2 things. One is about the technophobes, and I had some in my guild. We held a no pressure sew day over Zoom. So there was no instructor. It was just y'all come chat. And then we even practiced putting people into the breakout rooms. And that 100% changed a lot of people's minds because they just saw how much fun it was to engage. There's also an online resource, quilters-calendar.com. And on that website, there is a presentation by a number of teachers about how to get your guild members comfortable. So definitely check that out. It's totally free.
Thank you. I saw a question that asked about opening up lectures to more than one guild at a time. I know in my contract, each guild would have to pay for that, but there's a reduced price, and every teacher will handle that differently. Do any of the other teachers, Sheila?
Hey everyone. I enjoyed seeing the variety of all of the presentations. I mean, everybody coming from a unique perspective, and this is really just so awesome, so awesome. And even though it's not in person, this connection, and for people speaking about the technophobe thing again, just the couple times that I've had Zoom calls with my friends, I mean, there's a lot happening there. It's still quite a connection for us. I know I'm sheltering alone, so it's like that link via Zoom, it's like a big deal. It's a big deal. And I wanted to mention, because I had one question about my workshops, and I had referenced, my sound was a little off too, so sorry for all of that, but I referenced my website that I have my online workshops. So the live Zoom classes, lessons will be at the same location as any pre-recorded classes that I have. So if you visit fiberartworkshops.art, that's it. But thank you guys for all tuning in, and happy to see all your faces here.
Thanks, Sheila. There was a question about on-demand workshops. Many of us combine an on-demand workshop with our live workshop and offer both. So please just go ahead and check each of the quilt teachers' websites. Cindy Grisdela.
Hi, thanks, Lyric. I just wanted to reiterate the idea that I do offer on-demand classes that are listed on my website, and also that I am planning to continue to offer virtual content even when we can travel again. It's been really eye-opening to me. I'm on the East Coast, and so it's been really a lot of fun to be able to connect with guilds and students and other members on the West Coast and places that are a little bit farther away from me. I think that this is, you know, there's so many positives about doing this teaching this way, and one of them is that we can travel virtually to places that would be expensive for us to go in person. So thank you for coordinating all this.
Welcome. And Cindy, I think we all have the same sentiments and the same kind of things. Nina.
Lyric and Sue, I just want to, I think I can speak for all of us, just to say thank you for putting this whole thing together. We all know that it was a lot of work, and we appreciate everything. Mel, I'm including you in that. You are our technical guru. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for putting this together.
Thank you very much.
So all of our viewers, please do share the globalquiltconnection.com website with anybody who missed this. It's available. The recording will be available to anybody that can watch. The next 2 webinars are still open for registration. As many people as want to can register for those. And once the actual webinar reaches its limit, as many of you are seeing, you get automatically shipped over to the live YouTube stream. So there's no limit on how many people can see this. So thank you so much for coming with us on this journey. We really hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Great. Bye. Good to see you all.